Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to our prime time edition. We're going to be speaking with my guest, Mr. Samuel P. Jackson, who's joining us all the way from Johannesburg in South Africa on his way from Liberia. Mr. Jackson, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Dennis. It's nice to see you again. How are you? How was your Christmas?
Oh, Christmas is very good. I had a good Christmas. And how is it there in, I call it KwaZulu land? You said, no, I'm not in KwaZulu land. How is that in South Africa, Mr. Jackson?
Well, South Africa is it's like my second home. Contrary to what people believe, they think America is my second home, but I've spent more time in the States, but my heart is in Africa. And if there was any place that would have the option of living besides the United States, right now, I would love to be down here because this is a very to live with a lot of comfort, with a lot of culture, with a lot of really, good life in South Africa. People, I like the universities here. I like the think tanks. There's so many things that you can do here that is very, very exciting.
All right. So, Mr. Jackson, after spending somewhere in 2019, he was in Liberia for 6 months. He came back to the United States in October 2019, and just in November, he went to Liberia for some time. Now he's on his way back. And being in Liberia from here back and coming back, he has a very fresh perspectives on how things are in Liberia. So we want to get his perspective. How are things in Liberia? That's the topic of the show tonight. How things in Liberia. We want to know from Mr. Jackson. He's an author. He's also a political economist. And he's been in around Liberian government for so long now, ever since when I was in elementary school. Mr. Jackson, we're very happy to have you share your perspective on how things are in the motherland.
Yeah.
So I want to welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Dennis, before we go. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm on the Focus on Liberia page, and I'm not getting this because I want to share this with my friends and family. Okay. So I don't know how,
Yeah, it should be there. So let me see. Let me share.
It's not there yet.
Yeah, it should be there. Let me share with you so you can share with your friends and family.
Yeah. But I'm on the page of Focus on Liberia, and
okay, check. Also check. The account. But let me send it to you in Messenger.
Okay. But can I send it? Okay. Will it be on your personal page?
Yeah. Okay. Let me send it to you in Messenger now. You should see it.
Well. Okay. Let me check it out here. Okay. Yeah, because I wanted to basically send it to my friends and family while we are having this conversation. But you can go ahead and talk, Dennis.
Right. And these conversations are very important. We want everyone to benefit. And Mr. Jackson, we like your experience, and you've been around for some time now. Ever since you were Commerce Minister in the PRC government, you did some form of work with President Charles Taylor, President Salif, and even President Weah. So anytime we talk about Mr. Jackson coming, and we're very much happy to always have you, because in my experience doing this, there had been no Liberian with your age and experience that is willing to come on this social media platform and talk about Liberia. So I really value your presence anytime you appear on this show. I just want to say that.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate that. First of all, I just want to respond to one of one of your listeners. He says that South Africa his name is Riverses Pro. He said that South Africa is crime riddle, And I don't know where he lives, if he lives in Monrovia or he lives in the United States. but there is no developed country or any kind of metropolis in the world where you don't have crime. And if you look at the United States of America, Chicago, there are hundreds of shootings there on a weekly basis. And if you look at Atlanta in DeKalb County and parts of Fulton, you know the crime there. And of course, if you were to look at the murder per 100,000 around the world, South Africa is not even in the top 10. So, you know, he needs to really stop that. He's really making me very angry because this is a place that I have lived for nearly almost 28 years on and off. And of course, there's crime here, but there are crimes also in other parts of the world, especially in North America, in the large cities in the United States of America. So I just want to get that very clear to him or her. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to get another clarification. So when you say I work for this, work for this, work for this, and we need to put some timeline in terms of
right. That's why I say in some form or the other.
Yeah, but I needed to make that very clear to the audience, because one of the first things I always think is like the last 46 years, all I've done is work for government of Liberia. Okay. And the last 46 years, I've mostly worked for Fortune 500 companies and done my own business. I went to Liberia in 1978. I was 27 years old, and I was already second vice president of Chase Manhattan Bank in New York, on New York Plaza. I was in trade finance, and I was recruited by Ellie Johnson Sirleaf and Charles Green, the late Charles Green, and Omen Bestman, who's alive today, to go to be deputy controller at the Ministry of Finance. So I went there, got there in December. And of course, right after that, the April 14 demonstration was being planned because Florence Chenoweth had made the recommendation to Talbert that there should be an increase in the price of rice to support the local farmers. And of course, April 14 happened and I was removed from the job. And then of course, like when we came out of jail due to the Barnell Commission recommendation, that those of us who went to jail because of the events of April 14 should be free. We were freed. And then, you know, sometime in August, the president called me, Talbert, and asked me to be director of price control and marketing at the Ministry of Commerce. And I was there until March 8th, when I was arrested because the Progressive People's Party was asking for the government to resign. I went to Post Stockade on April 12, 1980. I was released from Post Stockade. And there, around April 17, I began to work for Samuel Doe. But shortly thereafter, in February of 1981, I was removed. So that was the end of that. Right. Of course, I lived in Liberia for about a year, and I came back to work on Wall Street. I went to work for Drexel Brenham Lambert. My boss was some of the people that you may have heard about in terms of the junk bond with the Michael Milken and Michael Levine. So I worked with Drexel Brenham Lambert. We did very well in 1982. We made about $500 million in junk bonds, and I was given a healthy bonus that year. And a couple of years later, I went to work for Credit Suisse, and I worked for Credit Suisse for quite a bit of time. Then I went to work for American Express IDS, and I did not go back.
Just giving clarity that your work has not always been government.
Yes, yeah, okay. And then I came to Liberia in 1992 when it opened the road, hoping that the war had ended or do something. But of course, nothing happened. And then in October of 1992, you had Octopus. Then I came back to the States, went to live in Atlanta, opened my business. I had a Kirby distributorship and a cleaning business and did extremely well on that. I had about 25, 30 employees and been doing my own business all of that time.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah. So in 19, this is important. In 1997, I went to Liberia to help Ellen with a campaign. She lost, and I immediately left because in 1993, I had done some work in South Africa on behalf of Investec, major investment company. So October the elections was in July of 1997. I can remember Charles Taylor won, and then I came and started to work back in South Africa. And I didn't go back to Liberia to work until 2002 until I asked me to help him with the effects of sanctions. And I worked from February of 2002 until August 11. The Charles Taylor left August 11 of 2003. And since 2003, I have not worked for any government. I've been a consultant. I've been a consultant for government. I did it for 6 months, on AMRA. Then I did a lot of work for UNDP, did a lot of work for USAID, did a lot of work for major corporations in the country. And then I had my own business. I had a gas station, Total gas station, I had a bakery, and I ran other businesses in the country. So that is what I've been doing. So when people say, they may have been around for a long time, I don't want people to think that all I have done, all of my 46 years in my life, is to work for the government of Liberia, which is absolutely not true. I spent only about 3 years working for government total. So that's right. About it. Yeah, right. but I've been very attached. I've been very attached to the problems of the country, right, in terms of being vocal, and instead of being attached to sometimes people who are in power. But my work history is mostly Wall Street and private entrepreneurship.
Right, and we at Focus on Liberia understand that. We are, proud of your work that you continue to do and the way you are engaged with the day-to-day issues in Liberia. As I said before, nobody at your level of experience with the Liberian government or with Liberian politics and economics has been so vocal and so visible in discussing these issues. So I like that personally. But you were in Liberia. So before you got in Liberia recently, so today's show is we want to see how things are in Liberia from your perspective as someone who has been so engaged. So you've been in Liberia for some time now, and you are on your way back. So, but before you got in Liberia, I mean, on the general level, how are things in Liberia? How are the people?
Well, fortunately for us, the social media and the interaction on Facebook gave us an approximate understanding of what goes on in Liberia. Okay, we're not there to the daily grind, to the traffic, to the poverty and all of that. But from what we see and hear on social media and in the news, the newspapers, online newspapers, and podcasts, so we pretty much have a general understanding what the situation is. The country is really deteriorating in terms of the economy of the country, deteriorating very badly.
So, Mr. Jackson, before you proceed, because those of us that are away from Liberia and watch social media and the news, people always tell us that, what you see on social media is completely different. You are not on the ground, so you don't have to say a thing. How far is it what we see on social media and in the news from what is on the ground?
But it reminds me in 1974 when we formed the Progressive Alliance of Liberia. Liberian government officials would always say to us, because we're students in the United States, they would say we're criticizing the government because we're not living in Liberia and we had no concept of what was happening. There seems to be the I said, I need to answer this, okay? I need to answer. Yes, Tony.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing with Mr. Samuel P. Jackson. He is on his way from Liberia, and we just want to ask him how is Liberia, whether everything we're hearing is how he sees it or how he saw it when he got there. Mr. Jackson has been engaged with Liberian politics and the Liberian economy for so long, and so we believe that he can give us a better perspective on how things are. Among the things we're going to discuss will be the current economic issues, the economic climate in Liberia, how he sees it, what he thinks is responsible, and how we can resolve that issue. and also
Yeah.
some of the top political issues going on in the country.
Yeah.
And let's see what Mr. Jackson sees.
Okay. Okay. So basically, this is not anything new. You know, officials of government in Liberia always want you to disbelieve your eyes, disbelieve your ears, and disbelieve the objective conditions in the country.
Mhm.
They always seem to think that the country is a lot better than how it's been portrayed, either
Right.
internationally or in the domestic papers. You know, so that is usual. But you know, let's just look at some of the things that have been happening in Liberia. We know about the situation with the money, no money in the bank. So
Right.
that's not. I mean, you know, everybody talks about that.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about that.
And Mr. Jackson, you can adjust your camera a little bit so that your head
Yeah,
is a little up, so we can
yeah,
get
yeah.
the full
I'm
view.
trying to get these. Somebody trying to call me like crazy, and I'm trying to like. In fact, what
Yeah,
I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut my phone off.
yeah, please
I'm just
turn
going
it
to
off,
cut my
and then
phone off.
you can adjust your camera. Your head is
Yeah, yeah, I am. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Look, I'm trying to cut my phone off, and this is. I'm so sorry, but yeah, I'm going to cut it off now.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So
No,
can you see me better now?
little more. Adjust that little more.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that?
perfect. Yeah, good.
Okay, great. Okay. So sorry, listeners, and everybody's trying to get in touch with me. You know, I'm away from friends and family, so everybody's trying to get in touch with me. They're not aware. Okay. So um we already so you know the situation with the bank, right?
Yeah.
No money. Okay. Then of
And
course,
we're going to get to that bank situation. That's a big
yeah,
one.
yeah. But I'm
Yeah.
saying everything that is happening in Liberia, people have smartphones now. The young people in Liberia have smartphones. You have Spoon TV, you have Cool Online, you have Sky FM, you have all of these. And they're there when things are happening in the country. So that gives you a bird's eye view of what's going on within the country. Right? And if you know, unless you're blind or deaf,
Yeah.
you know about the four deafs,
Mm.
about the four auditors.
Right.
You
And
know
so
about
before
the
before you got to Liberia, the four auditors have died within a span of 8 weeks. So when you got there, what were the people saying? What was the general
yeah.
atmosphere? Were people scared to go out? Were people talking about it, or the Liberian ways were just Coca-Cola they forgot? What was it like?
Yeah. Well, look, let's be clear. Before I got to Liberia, when I was in the United States, people were already telling me that my life would be in danger because I was a critic of the government and I should not even go near Liberia. And I basically said to them to go to hell because as a revolutionary, I went to Liberia in 1978, went there in 1992 and 1996, and been there during the Taylor regime. I'm not somebody to be easily intimidated, and all of that fear factor. If this is meant to keep people out of Liberia and to keep criticism down against the government, I was not going to be a victim of that.
Mhm.
So I went and I told myself, well, I'm a high visibility individual. I also have the the gift of gab, and people know me very well. So I'm prepared to be the canary in the coal mine, or to be a guinea pig to go to Liberia.
Mhm.
Because if I was not afraid to die when I was 26, 27 years old in 1978 to go to Liberia to work towards removing the oligarchy, I'm certainly not going to be intimidated by a bunch of upstarts, who want to take full control of our country in the age of the internet and social media and other online platforms. So I went to Liberia and I did a lot of radio programs. I did 3 radio programs in the first day I got there that Monday morning. I went to other places and I wasn't reckless with my life. I didn't go up like late in the night. I went out, a decent time during the day. And I didn't go out there to get them upset. I went out there, like I always speak, I speak with the facts. in the data. And if you want to fight me, you need to send Samuel Twe on a platform with me so we can debate the status of the Liberian economy, status of the financial system in the country, or other issues in terms that deal with socioeconomic conditions. And we don't need to fight physically, but we can fight mentally in terms of, making our points to the people of Liberia.
So as regards the auditors there, what was the news you met on the ground? What were people saying? What were they feeling?
Well, people were afraid, very much afraid. Liberian people were afraid, and they felt empty, they felt exposed, that they didn't know what to do because the government. Don't forget the deaths occurred from October 3rd to the 10th, and when I got there, 6 weeks later, the 22nd of November, there have been no autopsy report. There have been no major police reports on these deaths. So they were pretty worrying to a lot of people. So at least, minimally, 6 weeks is enough time to at least, in fact, 2 weeks is enough time to do an autopsy to determine the cause of death, not necessarily who the culprit who kills these people or whether these people died, or whether they were killed. But at least the government should have instantaneously, laid the matter to rest in terms of how these people died and what the causes of death. But it took a long time to make that to happen. And what it did was it dragged out the instability and it dragged out the fear and paranoia among the Liberian people. So that was very bad for the government. And then when the government did release an autopsy report, they didn't have any credibility among the people. Nobody believed that Gifty Asma Lamar, a Mandela Fellow and a Fulbright scholar, would be having sex in front of the Sacred Heart Cathedral on Broad Street in the middle of the day, and then the appearance of Mr. Albert Peters would be found somewhere where somebody took $30. So it all seemed like fantasy. And also, I know Emmanuel Niswa very well. I'm in very close touch with his wife, Elizabeth Dine. I spoke to her before he went. I spoke to her on the morning that the husband died, and I've been speaking to her all this time, and she truly feels that her husband was murdered.
Right. What were they saying on the police? On the radio station, people calling in and disputing and kind of not believing the report or what the general
atmosphere? Yeah, of course. The government has no credibility. The government came to power on January 22nd, 2018.
Is that your opinion or is that what is on the ground?
Yeah, but it is reflected in the 2020 December midterm results that the government has no credibility. The people are reacting to the lack of credibility, the lack of trust they have in the government. And that's why they voted against this government. So there is a data point to say that the government is losing trust with its own people for many reasons. The issue of the 49 condos, as you know, the issue of the 9th Street resident that was been transformed into a palace, the issue of Jamaica Resort, the issue of the 16 billion and the 25 million map up, where the Presidential Investigation Task Force and the Kroll Associates paid by the USAID to do a report. And both reports to say that the central bank could not document how this money was infused into the financial system. And they were both asking for more forensic audits. And more than 2 years after those two reports came out around October of 2018, I'm sorry. This is 2020, December, 26 months, there have been no forensic audit. And the government likes to sweep everything under the rug. And the Liberian people have gotten very tired.
Yeah.
And then when you combine that with the declining and the deteriorating economic circumstances within the country, it makes matters very worse.
Yeah.
And of course, when you look at that and then you see the government, especially Mr. Weah, does not seem to have a handle on what's going on, because you don't see any change, any dramatic change, any change of direction.
Right.
Even how he speaks to the people of Liberia.
Yeah. And we'll go into that, but before
to make them to understand what's going on, the communication strategy is very weak.
Yeah, before you left in, I think that was October 2019, you were very close to this government. I think you participated in that conference, that economic summit, and you spoke highly of it.
Yeah.
Back this time, what changed?
Okay. First of all, before I went to Liberia, I knew everything that was happening. I was aware of the $25 million map up. I was aware of the 16 billion. I was aware of the letter written by the 9 ambassadors calling for the government of Liberia to replace monies that were diverted. I was also aware of the 49 condos. I was aware of all of the transgressions that were going on. Mm. But one of the things I wanted to do, it was give them an opportunity for a reset button on the government in terms of its strategic direction. Mm. So I went home to engage them constructively. Because these are young people I knew who were in opposition for 12 years. And I had a lot of good relationship with people like Akaris Gray, Jefferson Koji, and Moba Molu. And I was hoping that I could do whatever I could do from a professional level to help them to succeed. So I went home thinking that there was hope, So I proposed the National Economic Dialogue, which was going to be a platform for a changing communication strategy that would change the narrative, the negative narrative that was accompanying things happening in Liberia.
Well, Mr. Jackson, it's not about narrative. The economy doesn't care whether you speak good of it or not. The numbers are there. So what do you mean you wanted a change in the economic narrative?
Great. No, not the economic narrative, but I said the communications surrounding what was happening in the country. Right.
That is irrelevant, right? Because it
is relevant because negativity associated with the actions of the government that is scripted, newspapers, online and stuff in that. These go far and wide. Mm. And they tend to have an effect on people investing in the country, consumer confidence, and all of those other things, the intangibles that go with behavioral economics, right? So
you're talking propaganda now, that the numbers can be bad, but the propaganda is good. If the communication is good, then it's going to attract investors. I don't think that's economics.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, if you start propaganda, not all propaganda is bad.
No.
If you start propaganda and you begin to do the right things. So I was looking at the National Economic Dialogue as the platform to change, to move in a totally different direction. And a communication strategy that will be accompanying that National Economic Dialogue will be a platform for change.
Okay.
A complete reversal of what was happening within the country. Because I was hoping, look, Dennis, who wants to undergo another failed government in Liberia? Who wants to see another failed state? Who wants to see the country deteriorate the way it was deteriorating in terms of the inflation with the $16 billion, almost 40% inflation, reduction in purchasing power, you know, negative economic growth. All of those negative things were happening, you know. And if you're a patriot, at least you would say to yourself, let's see what we can do to help.
Okay.
You know.
So that was the reason behind that summit.
But it is. Yeah.
That phone seemed to be distracting you. Can you put it away?
Well, it's not. No, it's not distracting me because I want to be able to see the comments.
Yeah, we'll come to the comments. I want to engage you.
No. I'm fully engaged. I mean, don't worry. I'm fully engaged. I'm fully engaged. I can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, let's put it away for a few times. Let's get this going because we didn't even come to the meat yet.
I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you very clearly. I'm fine. Okay. Yes.
So now you came back. You came from this summit. You were on focus on Liberia. You praised Tue how he was smart, and you had all the hope that things were going to turn around for the better. You went back. What did you see economically?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, Tue is smart.
You mean
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that?
You mean economically or in politics or street smart?
In terms of
what?
Yeah, cognitive skills.
Okay.
Cognitive skills. You are an educated person. When somebody talk about cognitive skills, somebody able to digest information, right? But that is a far cry from being knowledgeable to solve a problem. Okay. So I was giving Mr. Twe the benefit of the doubt. When I came back in October, I tried to go back to Liberia. And successively every month, Mr. Twe would obstruct me going back to Liberia. So then I found out in December of last year that Mr. Twe's strategy was to keep anybody with any knowledge away from George Weah, because they have built up this team, this troika of him, McGill, and George Weah, who were basically running the country.
But that's your cousin. Who can keep you away from your cousin? As you told us.
Well, I'm not the only person that kept away effectively. If you look at most people will tell you that. I can tell you about 2 or 3 ministers, friends of mine have told me that they have not had a one-on-one meeting with Mr. Weah without Mr. Twe or Mr. McGill. And if you speak to members of the CC arrangement, they will tell you that Mr. Twe is completely insulated by these 2 gentlemen. And it is demonstrated in how things are in the country, clearly, So, look, let me give you an example. The National Economic Dialogue was sponsored by the international system. The UNDP, the World Bank, the USAID, they all sponsor that. And we had a lot of Liberian professionals to participate in that economic dialogue.
Some were non-economic, they were professional, but not in economic, finance, business, nothing of that nature.
Yeah, but first of all, that's your opinion. But let me give you the facts. I'll name who were there. The chairman of the National Economic Dialogue was Dr. Maxwell, who has a PhD in economics. Okay. I'm an economist, a graduate economist. I wrote the synthesis document. You have Francis Dennis, the former president of the Liberian Bank for Development and Investment. He was involved. You had John B.S. Davis, the president of LBDR. Then you had Augustin Kafuan, former finance minister. He was also involved, participated in the conference. Then you had Nat Barnes. Then you have other young people who are part of the secretariat who have graduate degrees in economics, like Vanwe Sese, like Prince Akwa Thompson, then Caroline Zodua Myers. So these were the people that ran the secretariat. So I don't know who you're talking about who participated, who were not experts. So
let's put that.
But if you say something, you have to be able to defend it. So
Yeah, I know some who are now
So
economists,
who
but
were the people who participated at the plenary
pass
level
that.
at the conference?
That's not important.
Okay, but no, but you have to name him who was not an economist. No, that's important. How can you make a general statement and not be able to defend it? You have to defend it,
Magdala Cooper
Dennis.
was there. It's not an economist.
Who?
Magdala Cooper.
The many people went, but she did not participate in plenary. People
Oh,
went to the Tilia Ure went to the conference.
yeah, I was going to
Other
name her too. Anyway, that's why I said let's get past
Liberians
this.
went to the conference, like John Colley went to the conference. They sat in the audience, but the deliberation was led by professionals. So
Okay.
people like Zansa Kawa that sat in the audience, would you discount them? These are people that just sat in the audience. These were not participants in any role. So
Yes.
I think you should apologize. I think you should apologize for that, Dennis.
No, no. I mean, I don't know who participated in plenary, how you make the distinction,
But
but
but you,
the
but it
speakers,
was televised, Dennis.
yeah,
The
the speakers, some of the speakers at this
whole
conference were
conference was
not economists.
televised, and it was on social media.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Some of the speakers
But
that
they
we
were not
focus on,
speakers at the conference. That's not true, Dennis. Nobody who was in plenary at this conference and who spoke. We were divided in groups with expertise, and we met. That's how we came together to
so
give the
Jackson, let's
17
get past this.
recommendations.
We want to see what this summit has produced. And when you went by, what
It
fruits did
hasn't
you see?
produced. I can accept the fact
Yeah.
that it hasn't produced anything. I'm accepting that fact, and I'm
Oh,
validating the fact that more than 17 months, 16 months after the National Economic Dialogue,
right.
Atoye has demonstrated that it's not interested in making any change from the business as usual that exists in Liberia today.
Okay. Yeah. So now you went back. Did you try to touch base with these same people because these are and see what did you hear when you went back? Probably did you meet Tue? Did you meet with some of those economists that participated with you in the dialogue?
Yeah, but listen, I was there for a very brief period of time. Okay, from the 22nd of November to the 4th of December, and I had a lot of things I wanted to do with my family, and I also had a lot of engagements in terms of the media. I'm not interested in engaging Samuel Tue on any level anymore because I know what his objective happens to be. But I went to look for my friend, my former NPP friend, Nathaniel Gay, just to have a chit chat, few minutes, and that was it. Okay. I'm convinced that the gauntlet has been laid down, that Mr. Tue, Mr. McGill, and Mr. Wee, I believe this is how they want to run the state. And there's nothing anybody can say or do to change their minds. Absolutely nothing. Issue of no money in the bank. You heard Mr. McGill today talk about it is a problem with the legislature. They need to print more money. He's not talking about dealing with the root cause of the problem, but he wants to print more money as a panacea for the problem. Mr. Tue does not understand. Mr. Tue does not understand economic development from the sectoral level. He has no idea about planning. He has no idea about anything besides paying salaries on a monthly basis, and the salary is usually late. So as long as he pays the $24 to $28 million in salaries, he thinks he has fulfilled his obligation as the finance minister. But the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning have a lot of functions besides just one perfunctory fiscal function, paying salaries. Fiscal affairs look at revenue generation.
Right.
Fiscal affairs looking at the expansion of the economy to improve revenue to GDP. Fiscal affairs look at expanding the tax base in terms of tax to GDP. Fiscal affairs looks at public procurement, and how you can grow the economy through public procurement. Fiscal affairs also look at public sector investment. public sector investment to expand economic opportunity. And then, of course, when you come to development planning, you have to look at agriculture. Samuel Tuey cannot tell you how much rice was produced in Liberia last year. He can't tell you how much cattle was produced in the country last year. Can't tell you how much egg was produced in the country. Can't tell you nothing about animal husbandry. Can't tell you nothing about sugar cane. Nothing. But he calls himself the Minister of Finance and Development Planning.
And Mr. Jackson, it's very important you said that, because if you look at the functions of the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, to us who don't know these things, it look like we only talk about payroll and the budget. And you are saying there are other things to it. And in your belief, Minister Tuey is not doing any of those.
But because he doesn't have the expertise. Look, I'm an economist.
Yeah,
because
how do you convince me, or how do you convince the ordinary Liberian that, hey, these are the things he's supposed to be looking at and he's not?
Yeah, because I understand economics, okay? I have an undergraduate degree in banking and economics, okay? And then graduate in international business area for most of my life. So being a how you call it in a generalist, a theorist as an economist doesn't cut it for me. Because when you talk about harmonizing the public wage bill and the Francis where to sit down in a room and to look at salaries and chop it, without having a labor economist in the room, without having a human resource management specialist in the room, without having other people who understand job and content, okay, people who understand labor markets, and people who are there to do civil service reform. That's number one. Number two, if you look at the development planning portion of the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, you have to do sectoral planning. You have to do things in terms of improving health outcome indicators. You have to do things with labor.
Mr. Jackson, here's the problem. And that's why some people have with you as well, because you are the one who praised Samuel Tuey as being very smart. You knew that he didn't have all these skills, right? Maybe you could have come up and said it. So what people are saying, maybe you didn't get what you wanted from Samuel Tuey, and this is why you're coming back to say all this. Because
but Dennis,
yeah,
you can go any one of my interviews that I did. Yeah. I said Samuel Tuey is smart, but I never told you Samuel Tuey has all of the knowledge to be a good finance and development planning minister. I've always said that Samuel Tuey needed to hold on, finish. Always say he needed to build a team. I went there with the idea to build this team. That was the idea, to bring in professionals. When I was the economic consultant for Mrs. Salif for the 6 months, we built a team. We had Eric Wecker from the Harvard Growth Institute to come in. We had Dr. Mario Bonas from Akara University to come in. We had other Liberians. And when I worked on a high-level panel that produced the Sustainable Development Goals, we had experts from all over the world, including Gary Conneal, who was the Haitian former prime minister. We had Jessica. We had Dr. Alio Sal. We had Remy Singuru from UNFPA. So when I went to Liberia, I found out in the time when I returned to the States, between that October and December, that Mr. Samuel Tuey wanted to be the only one to shine. So because I kept pushing him on creating a project delivery unit to implement the recommendations of the National Economic Dialogue, or to create a secretariat, or to create even a website. And that conversation went on forever. Then when I said I was going to come back so I could accelerate the creation of this tax team, which we're going to be implementing the recommendations from things, So then I came to the realization, okay, but I went in with an open mind that yes, this is a young man, he's educated, smart, but he needs a lot of help.
Yeah.
And no matter how smart you are, Steve Mnuchin alone cannot run the economy of the United States of America. No one can. Janet Yellen alone cannot run the economy of the United States of America. John Maynard Keynes could not, or the late, what's his guy name from University of Chicago, Professor, hey man, they got the monetarist, man. What's his name? Thinking about it. Okay. But
Okay.
no one economist has all of the multidisciplinary skills to
Right.
run an economy. We need everyone hands on deck to run an economy. I'm talking about Milton Friedman.
Let's talk about the money shortage. Some are saying that this is an artificial money shortage. It really doesn't exist. What did you see when you were in Liberia?
Went to Liberia. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Dennis?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, let me leave and come back. I need to go on the other Wi-Fi. Okay.
Okay.
I'll go on the other Wi-Fi.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in discussion with Mr. Samuel Jackson. He's on his way from Liberia and he's currently in South Africa, and we're talking to him from there. Generally, we want to know how is Liberia. So we've been discussing issues on the economy, how things are, the general feeling of the people, their response to the death of the auditors who died in the span of 8 days, and how the people are feeling. And Mr. Jackson is trying to give us his perspective on how things are. Okay, while Mr. Jackson is away, let's read a few comments. People have been commenting. River says, Pro, I like our more traditional and dialect songs than the Western model songs. Okay, we play a traditional song. Bottom Cooler, Dennis Ja, you should let Mr. Jackson school Gaiman. I think that's Jerome Gaiman who was earlier on. Bottom Cooler, psychological or behavioral economics is very important. Edward Doe, Dennis, Sam is right, you need to apologize. And he's making reference to when I said some who attended the economic summit were not economists. And I stand by that statement. Sam is saying that those people attended and they were not in plenary. So we need to look at that and see who were in plenary, because I watched that live and others that were participating and giving, talking about it were not. Paul Pa Jabo said Dennis is an agent of who propagates the bad governance in Liberia for the CDC. I don't know exactly what that means. Moses Nyipan, where have you been since and didn't do all what you are talking about? Samuel Jackson, I will blame those who give you the platform to discuss Liberia's future. You are a failure, Sam Jackson. Moses, what do you mean? He's not a failure. And Moses also says Samuel, he wants Samuel Tuer's job. Rahat Duita, Liberia's story is too long. I will be back. Jimmy Eastman, what does Mr. Jackson advise to revive unemployment, weaken infrastructure, collapse of the national laws and the state institutions, and broken social networks, and massive loss of income and livelihood? Some would not believe that, but let Mr. Jackson respond to that. Moses Nipan say, if SendWave can work like just clapping hands, then why banks cannot fulfill their function? Moses, what do you mean by the bank functions? People go to the bank, they don't get money. Is that a problem with the bank or what? But Mr. Jackson will discuss that. Why do we have this money shortage? Jimmy Eastman is also saying reasserting control over national assets and reviving public finances should be the utmost priority. Again, we are in conversation with Mr. Samuel Jackson. He's having some technical issues. He's going to be right back. We are just getting his perspective on issues in Liberia. Liberia is the only country we have. That's the only country has some politicians said we cannot be deported from. So we should all be engaged without taking this side or that side. I know issues, the country is polarized now. People take their partisan positions, and whatever you say, you've been accused of being for this side or that side. But in the midst of it, we should still talk. And so we are having Mr. Jackson back. All right, so Mr. Jackson, we will try that again. Your audio is getting connected. Now you are connected. Mr. Jackson, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, and the connection is very good now. Very
right.
good.
That's good.
Yeah.
So Mr. Jackson, welcome back.
Yeah,
Let's go back
so basically, what I was trying to explain to you, Dennis, is that.
Go
ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. You go ahead. You. Yeah.
All right.
No, what I was trying to say to you was that.
Mr. Jackson, you are reading the comments again. Let me read one for you from Emmanuel Jackson. All talk, no action on Liberia's development is a waste of time. People normally consider talking on this platform a waste of time. Is all talk. And what I tell them is even God talked, right? God talked, spoke the earth into existence. So what's your take on that comment? All talk, no action.
I'm not responsible for action. You know, I'm not a president of Royal Liberia. I'm not finance minister. I don't have any official responsibility. So all I can do as a stakeholder is to run my mouth. If anybody doesn't like it, well, that's just too tough. But as long as I live, and as long as I have fingers to type and I have a mouth to speak, they will be hearing from me.
Yes, people always say that, oh, you guys all talking. Yes, we have to talk. There is no way we can run a country or we can have a country with no one talking. I don't know which you throw sign. But let's come to your money shortage. My question was, when you got to the country, there's a report that there's no money in the bank. So when you got to the country, what did you see as regards at the shortage of currency on the local market and in the commercial banks?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, look, Dennis, I had anticipated that. So I took enough cash with me. And I didn't have the need to use my debit card or to go to the bank for any reason at all. I was spending 12 days in Monrovia, and I budgeted for 10 to 12 days. And of course, I went a little bit over my budget, but it was not too much, you know. And so I was not subjected to going to the bank and not getting money and all of that. But I heard horror stories from friends and family members and business people. There was some very bad horror stories concerning the lack of no money in the bank. And, you know, it is a problem that has existed now for 6 solid years. I felt this problem when I was economic advisor to the government of Liberia in 2014, before Ebola came. The Ministry of Public Works was given something called letters called authority to proceed, given by Victor Smith and Steve Yeckerson to road construction companies. Ellen was was pushing a lot of road construction, so the guys look at it as an opportunity for them to get their cuts. So they would write the letters to the construction companies, proceed the bill of road, and put a dollar amount there on these letters. So the construction companies then would take these letters and take them to the bank and get a loan, because this letter was almost like a guaranteed form of payment from the government of Liberia. Unfortunately, the sum total of that letter, when I was at the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, was about $112 million. They had done the roads, and the government did not have the money to pay them. And the banks then were feeling the pinch, because there's a lot of money that came from the banks. So I flagged that out to the IMF. The IMF told me that they were going to speak to the banks. They went and spoke to the banks. After a couple of days, the lady, the IMF team leader, said in the meeting that she had spoken to the banks and the banks were okay. And I thought the banks were not okay. Because there's no way banks could afford to eat $112 million in non-performing loans on their books in Liberia. Because I knew that the entire capital asset base of the banks was about $800 million. And $100 million coming out of there was more than almost like 14, 15% of their asset base. So that situation dragged on until 2016 when they started infusing the $16 billion, and they did not infuse the $16 billion into the banking system. It did not, because if you read the Pro report, it said that the central bank could not document how $16 billion was. And if you read the presidential investigation tax report on the $25 million, it says clearly that the monies were diverted. So besides the $16 billion and the $25 million in terms of the map up, all of these combined with the construction companies own the banks and they cannot pay. The government of Liberia owes the central bank, they cannot pay, plus the government of Liberia also owes commercial banks. So there's been an impairment, capital impairment of the banks that is causing this technical insolvency that we see today. So the banks are technically insolvent. That's what insolvency means. It means that you don't have enough cash to pay depositors, because the money the depositors put in the bank.
Mr. Jackson, where is this money? Is the money still in
Liberia? It's a liability. It's a loan to the bank, and the banks don't have the money. This money is outside.
Where is the money?
Yeah, but let me tell you, if you look at M1, money in the bank, then M2 is money in the bank plus money outside, currency in circulation. 94% of currency in circulation is outside of the banking system. You heard that? 94%.
94.
94%. 94% of currency in circulation is outside of the banking system.
How you
Which
came up
means,
with that number? Where is that number coming from? 94%.
I got it from the central bank annual report from 2019. I got it from the central bank report of 2019.
2019. Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
I got it from And okay, Dennis, I also told you I did a report last year, July, when I was in Liberia. 44 pages. Is my document is called, I don't know if can I share it on the screen? Maybe people can take a look at it.
No, it wouldn't work. Just send it to me and I can post it.
Oh, okay then. But later.
Yeah, later.
We'll do that. Okay, but bottom line is, I did a study. Yeah, and what the study discovered was that there were three parallel financial structures that were created because of lack of trust within the banks: the Fullahs, the Lebanese, and the Indians. They've created their own financial institutions, informal, outside of the banking system. Okay. The reason that exists is because the banks are inefficient and the banks are already illiquid, so people don't want to put their money there, so they're bypassing all of that, okay? So they created their own parallel financial institutions. The other thing is that we have a huge degree of informality within Liberia. 80.9% of your workforce, people ages of 16 to 65, working in the informal sector, they are now wage earners, and only 7% of the population, adult population, have bank accounts.
7%.
Only 7%. Okay. In Ghana, yes. In Ghana, it's 50%, right? And when I remember I told you about the 94% money
Yeah.
currency in circulation outside of the banking system,
Yeah.
you have to look at the comparator countries. You have to look at the West African monetary zone. Those countries that are not within the Francophone zone in West Africa, right? Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Gambia, Guinea, so forth and so forth. Liberia is the only country that has 94%. The average amount of money in circulation outside of the banking system in the West African monetary zone is only 22%. Right.
20.
The other reason that we're having the problem is we talk about the financial exclusion with only 7% people having bank accounts. But then we don't have a digital platform. In Kenya, for example, 92% of Kenyans use mobile money, mostly M-Pesa, Safaricom. So you pay the taxi driver with mobile money. You pay the chicle seller with mobile money. You pay the bus driver with mobile money. You pay most of the transactions. So GDP is not intermediated by the financial system. Liberia is a cash and carry economy. The market women in real life are not suffering from Liberian dollars.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Indians,
No,
the
Mr. Jackson,
Lebanese, and the Fulas are not suffering.
Before you get there, because people are using mobile money, 92% using mobile money in Kenya. How does that help? Does it mean that, okay, since they are only using mobile money, mean the physical cash stays in the bank? Is that what you're trying to say?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But look at the example, even in the United States, that money gets zapped from my account and it goes to the balance of Walmart. I get debited and Walmart gets credited automatically. And it's happened instantaneously.
Yeah.
That's what we call ACH, or real-time gross settlement. So Liberia has to build a platform. Liberia is way behind the rest of the world in digital banking, in electronic banking, to build a platform. You need electricity to do that, regular electricity. Then you need good internet service. Then you need good cyber security to make all of those happen. Liberia, 17 years after the war, Dennis, only 7% of Liberians are on the electricity grid, have access to electricity.
7%.
And then, yes, 60% of the electricity is stolen. The 88 megawatt plus the 28 megawatt, the 88 from the dam and the 28 from the heavy fuel, right? We only can distribute 35 megawatt out of the 160 megawatts. So you have the issue with power. The issue with infrastructure is a very serious problem for Liberia. It's a serious problem for Liberia. So there are many things that we need to do, and you don't have one expert and social equity. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm doing at the London School of Economics. How infrastructure improves social cohesion and it improves equality. That's what I'm doing at the London School of Economics. Okay. So
Mr. Jackson,
my thing is
before we get to what can be done, here is another thing. Moses Nipa had written that he just sent someone $50 by way of SendWave, and the person was able to get the money. So when you send transaction through SendWave and they're able to get the money, but banks cannot, is that also because SendWave is outside the banking sector? This money is outside the banking sector?
SendWave, what SendWave did, SendWave had to take a lot of money into Liberia.
Okay.
From the Federal Reserve, you fly in, and Ghana is the agent for the Federal Reserve in West Africa. So SendWave, when SendWave first started, there were hiccups in its delivery of money. But what they did was they set up the independent distribution network of independent distributors that you can go to and you can get the money and they get a small percentage. So it works very well. So if you send $50, they will take out $3.
Mm.
They're making money from that. So that it's in their best interest to always have physical cash at the ready so they can service the customer so they can earn that income. You follow me,
So
right?
that money is outside the bank.
Huh?
The money SendWave is used.
Of course, it's outside the banking system.
Okay.
Yeah. SendWave is using its independent agents
Yeah.
on the streets.
You're right. People. When you say independent agent, it's people.
Yeah, people, yeah.
Okay. And so how is that regulated? Because if government knows that this money would mean money in the bank and then SendWave, so what's the regulation there? Do you know?
Well, I mean, SendWave as a non-bank financial institution should be registered with the government of Liberia.
Okay.
The same way that they are registered in the United States with some state banking agency, they should be registered with the Central Bank of Liberia to provide this service. And since it's also an electronic service, there should be some relationship or some integration between SendWave and the cell phone companies, because that's how the money goes. It goes directly from our app here to the person's phone number, and that's how it is paid. It's paid to the phone number. So SendWave has a relationship between the cell phone companies and the people on the ground, with the agents on the ground. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So how can we fix this kind of issue? Because one thing, another thing that some
fix what kind of issue now?
The consumer confidence in the bank. People don't trust the bank, so regular people are keeping their money under the mattress.
Exactly. Yeah. You see, you will bring back trust in the banking system if you bring efficiency to the banking system, efficient operation.
Okay.
If you go to an ATM and you can get money instantaneously, you'll put your money in the bank.
Yeah.
People put money in banks for 3 reasons. Number 1 is safety, right? So nobody can steal your money. Number 2 is liquidity, ready access to your money. And the third is to earn an income with the savings account. Okay. So if you were to go to the bank, you got your money in there. You go there 2 or 3 times, you can't get it. You go to the ATM, you can't get it. The first opportunity you get, you would take all your money out of that bank and keep it at home. The same thing with the people who are the largest earners of Liberian dollars or earners of cash in the country. The supermarkets, the gas stations, the rice importers, the petroleum importers. All of these people, now they have safes in their buildings, and the government is losing a lot of revenue because this cash transaction is not easily traceable. See, Dennis, when you go to the bank in the United States and you go collect $10,000, you have to fill up a form, right? Because cash is dangerous.
Yeah.
A lot of cash is more dangerous. Therefore, the government has to fix the system where we use more digital payment, MasterCard, Visa, where we use more mobile money, where we use more checks. And that's how you keep the physical cash in the bank. The other problem we have is dollarization with this US dollar, the dual currency. The dual currency, the time for the dual currency is over, Dennis. There's no country in West Africa where you send Western Union or MoneyGram where you get US dollars.
No.
When you do that, you're creating a situation where the central bank is not accumulating foreign exchange, or rather, it is the Fullahs, the Lebanese, and the Indians accumulating the foreign exchange. Because once you get that money from Western Union, which is US dollars, What would be the first place you go? You go someplace you get high rate.
No.
Who entices you with high rate? That's the Fula man. That's the Lebanese man. Or the Indian man. Who do they? All of those money changers, the agents in the streets, they all work for the Fulas, the Lebanese, and the Indians. That is their job. To map up US dollars, the Lebanese, the Indians, the Fulas, because the Lebanese, the Indians, and the Fulas need US dollars to
order their
import
goods.
more goods for you to buy, right? Yeah. So it means that the central bank is not itself increasing its reserve position. So right now, the reserve position of the central bank in Liberia is less than 3 months of import cover. So we have a serious balance of payment problem.
Wow. Okay.
Because we don't have enough to cover imports. And that's some of the problem we're having with the illiquidity within the banking system, with the central bank to bring it and give it to the banks.
Wow. Let's talk. We have 15 more minutes to close. Let's talk a little. You were there and elections. I think you left before the election result were announced. So let's talk a little bit about the result.
I left before the elections were held.
Yeah, and so you left, but you heard the result. What's your general feeling? What's the statement there? What can you read from the election results?
I already told you, Dennis. I said to you that all of the mistakes and the mishaps that are happening within the Weah administration, the election result was a clear indication of where the people, their sentiments are. They voted against the government of Liberia to indicate their displeasure and unhappiness with this government. No, and the CDC, I was hoping by now.
Yeah, CDC won in other counties, right? Like in Sino County representative seat and the senator seat.
They won, I think, three or four counties maximum. Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but 3 or 4 counties compared to 15 counties, I'd say you lose Montserrado County by almost 100,000 votes. You lose Grand Cru, you lose Grand Bassa, you lose Bomi, you lose Bong, you lose Lofa, you lose Magibi, you lose Kipman, and this is a clear signal for you for 2023 that if you cannot win your base, Montserrado County, where you used to put up the hand of anyone, a cat, and they win in Montserrado County, it's a clear signal to the government of Liberia that the people are very much unhappy with what's going on in the country.
So
at this point,
what
before we came on, you myself were talking about.
So at this point, what are your recommendations to the government? What can the government do, the George Weah government do to turn things around?
Fire Sandra Tue yesterday. Okay. Fire McGill 2 days ago. Okay. Reshuffle your entire government. Bring in the best brains, Liberians, no matter whether they're from the CDC or who they're from.
Yeah.
Work on the fundamental problems in the economy. Number one, the money situation. Work on it. Work on governance. Work on the rule of law. Work on attracting investments to the country. Work on repairing a relationship with Liberians in the diaspora. Liberians in the diaspora in 2 hours raised $30,000 for a Dollars dealer. One day. You saw it, Dennis. You cannot run a country without the diaspora. No country in the world. The Chinese need their diaspora, and there's a Chinese diaspora that is funding investments in China. The Nigerian diaspora is making investments in Nigeria. The Filipino diaspora is making investments in the Philippines. Philippines, all over the world. The Ghanaian diaspora is the one that building the infrastructure of Ghana. Mr. Weir has alienated the Liberian diaspora, especially those of us who live in the United States. Look at us as enemies because we criticize him. His people believe that they have answers to the problems of the country, but events have demonstrated that they have no answer to the problem of the country. And then it says stuff like 24 years loading to piss people off, Dennis. Then they say that you are hit position, anytime you want to say something. So these are people that are not interested in coexisting with us. They have no interest in coexistence. They have no interest in national reconciliation. They have no interest in living together as sons and daughters of the soil.
Yeah. But Mr. Jackson, you listed a whole lot of things. I did, from the way you see things, are these achievable for the president and his government?
What is achievable?
All the things you say the president, the government can do to turn things around.
They can't. They don't have the capacity to do so. Mr. Weir put out 2 cheeky music songs after he lost. After he lost the election, one a liar and the other one a happy birthday for a girlfriend.
No, you don't know that, Mr. You don't know that.
Jackie appear. He's not interested in changing.
Mr. Jackson, you don't know that. That's a happy birthday song for Jackie appear.
Well, I don't know that, but I sense that because it's been nearly December 8th. We are now December 20 something. And I don't know, maybe you have better signals from the government than I do, government moving in a different direction. Have you? And what would you consider the government has done since the election to show that it got the message from the voters? What have they done that you see that you believe that they got a message from the voters? I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I heard what has been floated around is recalibration, and we're waiting to see what, in practical terms, that means or how that is carried out. But I was just pointing you to that music that is for Jackie Appiah. You don't know that for a fact, and so you can't say that. And what I heard too from a very
I put it to you. I heard that from people who supposed to know around him, and I have a lot of friends around him, and they told me the message. Her birthday was last week, and the music came out just about the same time. Yeah, but it could be just rumor too.
Yeah, I believe so too. Maybe rumors. But another thing that there is a person I talked to. He called himself an unabashed sedition. He said, we don't know those music who have been recorded a long time, and people from the opposition have leaked them. That's another rumors or another story or another.
But that is not true.
From the CDC,
the opposition could not have leaked because it was John Weir himself who released the music on his page, and Kalasco then did it. It wasn't the opposition who did it.
Yeah, that's the narrative that is coming out too as I talk to people. But Mr. Jackson, it was good talking to you again. Coming by, we just wanted to have a sense of what is obtaining in our country. So let's end it. Let me get your final statement on this. Again, let me ask the question: how is Liberia, and what is the way forward? What do you see on the horizon as to where we headed?
Dennis.
Yes, sir.
Dennis, I'm very exhausted. I'm extremely exhausted dealing with the interminable problems of Liberia on a daily basis. You can't see no head, no tail. You can't see any resolution. And, I feel sorry for the young people, and for the people who have to live in Liberia and suffer those indignities, the inequalities, the problems they have, and I hope and pray that the government of Liberia can make a change, hopefully, for their own good. Because if they don't make a change, they will be put out of power, Dennis, and it will be a tragedy for George Weah, who rose to power with so much promise. And unfortunately, it's been a major disappointment so far.
Major disappointment so far. Those are the words of Mr. Samuel Jackson, a political economist and author of Rich Land, Poor Country, talking about Liberia. He's giving his perspective on Liberia. He's on his way from Monrovia through South Africa, and he's going to be joining us shortly, returning to the metro Atlanta area where I live in Georgia. Mr. Jackson, when you come off, when you get here, find time to see me.
Thank you very much, sir.
And we appreciate your time.
Oh yeah, when I'm in Georgia, I'm always, I always speak to you, but because of COVID, we have to do social distancing.
Exactly. So we'll have time to meet and we can talk more about the country. Let me read one question from Moses Nyepa. He's been asking you all kinds of questions. He said, can Samuel Jackson work in private sector to help the country? The answer is yes, Moses, all of us. And even you, Moses, but Mr. Jackson, and Mr. Jackson, at the beginning of the show, listed some of the areas he had worked. He had his own gas station, he had his own ice company and all that. So yes, he can work there. Next Sunday, my guest is going to be Dr. Samuel Toe. He has written extensively on President William V.S. Tubman. And he's going to be, he has some good things that he said Tubman has done. I read his first article. He said, there's one school of thought that look at Tubman has been very bad. There's another school of thought that look at Tubman as being the good old days. And he's somewhere in the middle there. He has a position on President William V.S. Tubman. He doesn't see him the way most Liberians see him as this guy who really drove the country in the dish. And so he's going to be here and we're going to examine his articles. He's a researcher. If you go on Bush Chicken, you will see his article. So he's a researcher in politics, international relations, and at the University of East Anglia in UK. Mr. Jackson will know that university. So Dr. Toe will be here next Sunday so we can talk all about William V.S. Tubman.
Dr. Samuel Toe is an unabashed apologist for the Tubman administration. So he says he's going to demolish 75 to 80 years of intellectual thinking. All the scholars that wrote against Tubman, like the Cos Lebanon, like people like what the name people that wrote the book Growth Without Development, Chloe and all the other people who wrote against this, people like Dr. Vanderklash. So I told Mr. Dr. Toe, no offense, but he was exhibiting a degree of what should I say, a little bit uppity, to try to demolish everything that's been written for the last 75 years, to come out and say, you have the research. So we look forward to seeing that we are all scholars.
Exactly.
We'll be looking. Yeah, we are all scholars.
What scholarship is about. So
yeah. But the thing is, when you ask him to present data, he says that he's working on the data. So I don't know how he comes to the conclusion without the data. Because if you look at the article he wrote in the Bush Chicken, there's no data to support what he's saying. So when I asked him for the data, he said, you think I'm going to put my data on a blog? Well, then I just basically left him alone. I'm going to wait to see his book, wait to see his research repertoire, and we'll have something to say about it.
Yeah, please tune in next Sunday, same time on Focus on Liberia.
I'm not going to listen to it because I don't want words. I want something written down that I can do an analysis on. Let him write a book.
He has written the research paper, Mr. Jackson. You can read
He
it.
wrote that thing in the bush chicken is not a research paper. It's not peer review.
I didn't say peer review.
It's not peer review.
Right? No, I didn't say that. Anyway, we're going to end on this note.
But you say when you read a research paper, it has to be peer review.
We want to end on this note. Next Sunday, please join us. We're going to have Dr. Samuel G. Toe.
Yeah. And he's a very smart young man. I like him a whole lot. He's a very good friend of mine.
You said about this smart business, you got to leave it now. You said Samuel Toe was
we
smart.
have to hold his feet to the fire.
Yeah, you said Samuel Toe was smart. We're holding you now. You said,
no, but when you say somebody is smart, it doesn't mean that they are right. It doesn't mean that they are right. I'm a very brilliant man, but I'm not always right.
Most of the time, you are not right.
Oh, no, you can't say most of the time I'm not right.
No, I'm kidding.
According to your opinion, but me, when I speak as an empiricist. I speak with numbers. You have never gone against any data that I've given ever in your life. No data that I've given. Because when I speak on data. I speak on empirical evidence. And I don't speak with my opinion. I give you facts.
All right. And facts.
That's how come I get distinction at the London School of Economics, because I give them facts.
That's the voice.
I don't give them opinion.
Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson,
I'm at the London School of Economics, which is the best economic school on the planet.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We really appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
All right. We want to say thank you to all our viewers. Thank you so much for watching. At this time, we're going to end with our closing song that says, "We are all Liberians."
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people.
Good night and may God bless.